Dear friends, today we have with us the Chair of Parliamentary Friends of India, Andrew Charlton, and he has recently penned a book titled Australia's Pivot to India. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you.
Yeah. Andrew, I want to begin by asking you what made you write this book at this stage and what are its salient features?
Well, the reason for writing this book is because Australia's relationship with India is one of the most important international relationships that Australia has. India has become a global superpower. It is already the largest nation in the world by population. By 2050, it will be larger than the United States and China combined. And so for Australia, this relationship is incredibly important because as India continues to grow, it will reshape the region around us and contribute very significantly to both Australia's economy and our security.
There are two aspects of this relationship. I mean, there are many, but the economic and the strategic. Now, since we last spoke, a lot has happened. The ECTA agreement, which is a trade agreement, has been signed, which was in the works for many years. How important do you think that step has been? And what can be done really to push the economic relationship forward? Because although there has been momentum, there's still some distance to cover.
Look, you're absolutely right. The economic relationship between Australia and India is incredibly important, but for a long time it hasn't been as strong as we would have hoped it would be. So one part of that is signing the ECTA agreement, the trade agreement, which will encourage commerce between Australia and India by making more goods and services easier to trade between the two countries. But the other thing that I think will unlock the trade relationship between Australia and India is the Indian diaspora in Australia. These are people who really understand India, have fantastic relationships with India. And I think that many of those small and medium-sized businesses run by members of the Indian diaspora in Australia can really pave the way for a strong trading relationship between Australia and India. They can show the big companies in Australia who've always struggled to trade with India how it's done and light the path for those big companies. And that, I think, is a very important role that the Indian diaspora in Australia can play in boosting that bilateral trade relationship.
Yeah, and talking about the diaspora, it's almost reaching, I think, 1 million and almost 3%. I think by some estimates, over 3% of Australia's population. But do you reckon in the larger community that awareness about India has increased, or do you reckon that there's work needs to be done there as well because there may be certain stereotypes about India that people at large still carry?
I think there are a lot of stereotypes. I think many Australians don't fully understand the breadth and depth of modern India. And so part of the reason for writing this book was to help break down some of those stereotypes, to explain just what is happening in India, the tremendous economic growth, the enormous growth of the digital economy, the incredible artistic, cultural and political life inside India. And the book also shines a light on the contribution of Australians with Indian heritage to Australia. Australians have been blessed by a fast-growing and vibrant Indian community, and the book talks about the contribution that that community has made, the number of CEOs in Australia that are of Indian heritage, the number of people of Indian heritage in Australia who've made a huge contribution to our sporting life in this nation at all levels, including cricket, but beyond cricket as well. The amazing film and culture and arts that Indian Australians have contributed to Australia and really brings to life the contribution of the 1 million people in Australia who have Indian heritage.
Yeah. And also talking about the strategic relationship, we saw the Malabar naval exercises come to Australia for the first time. How important is that relationship, especially given the kind of geopolitical developments that one has seen?
Well, Australia and India have a very strong security relationship, and Richard Marles, the Defence Minister, and Penny Wong, the Foreign Minister, have both really focused on building up that relationship between Australia and India from a strategic perspective. We're now both members of the Quad, which brings us together to cooperate on a range of issues in our region. And I think India will play a very big role in the stability of the Indo-Pacific region, and Australia will benefit from a strong relationship with India that brings peace to the Indo-Pacific. You have to remember that Australia and India have so much in common. We're both democracies, we both have a shared heritage, we both have geographic ties, and so we have a common interest in supporting security and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah. And what do you make of the G20? What do you think? How did it pan out? I mean, we had the African Union that got included in G20. What is your take on what happened?
Look, I think it was a wonderful moment. This was the first time that India has held the presidency of the G20. And I think it was a really strong success. It was an opportunity to showcase modern India, the fastest growing major economy in the world, to the rest of the world and open up trade and investment ties. I think the Indian G20 dealt sensitively with a whole range of very complex issues going on in the world right now, as well as putting on display the strength and growth of the modern Indian economy.
Yeah. And can one also say that at least in Australia, the importance of the relationship with India actually has support across the political spectrum? Can one say that now? Because there was some speculation whether the change in government would have some impact on it. But can one safely say now that both parties in Australia actually support a very strong relationship with India?
Absolutely. You know, this year, Prime Minister Albanese has just come back from India. That makes him the first Australian Prime Minister to visit India twice in 1 year. We've already had 12 Australian ministers travel to India this year, which is a record for any year, and it's only September. So that shows you the commitment of the Albanese Labor government to the Australia-India relationship. And of course, you can also see the personal warmth that Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Albanese have between each other on the many times they have met. They have a strong relationship, and I think their personal relationship is benefiting our diplomatic relationship.
Yeah. And lastly, Andrew, your book is going to be officially launched on the 27th of September. Would you like to tell our audiences why they should go and grab a copy of your book? If you could tell us something, that's there, which probably, isn't still in the public domain.
Absolutely. Well, the book is being launched on the 27th of September by Prime Minister Albanese at the Riverside Theatre in Parramatta. People are more than welcome to come along. The tickets are free. They can find them online. And it will be a great moment to celebrate the Australia-India relationship. This book is really informed by all of my friends from across the Parramatta electorate who have been so kind to help me understand the India-Australia relationship, to share with me the breadth and depth and vibrancy of the Indian diaspora in Australia. And it'll be a terrific event, and I welcome everybody to come and join us.
Andrew, thank you for taking out your time and speaking with us today.
Pleasure, as always. Thank you.